So, further into the Ba division, we meet Tehuti, God's faculty of omniscience, all-knowing. This is the sphere of wisdom in man. That said, it is the faculty that remains dormant, or one of the faculties that remain dormant, until man has lived and experienced life in the world, living the lessons which will awaken wisdom, right? Some of us have an elevated Jupiter placement. Your sun, your moon, your rising sign in Sagittarius, which corresponds to Tehuti, or Pisces, which corresponds to Ma'at, which is the sister of Tehuti. Both are of the Jupiter energy. This gives one the ability to expand consciousness, right? Jupiter is expansiveness when viewing things, meaning to see more. These are the people who, when you explain something to them, they have, even if they've never experienced, they have this ability to grasp it. They readily acknowledge, oh yeah, I can see that. Tend to see how principles connect. You have an understanding for the generalities of subjects, right? A wide sense of awareness. Also, there's a curiosity to know things, right? The study of different subjects, that A-sphere connection. This in itself is not to be mistaken for wisdom. The wisdom or lack thereof will be determined by how this sight, right, which ma'a means to see, right, how this sight is used. That use of the sight is what comes with experience. Right? How that sight is used is sometimes hindered by youthfulness. So, this is just a word of caution to all my fellow know-it-alls with that high Sagittarius or that high Piscean placement. The light of wisdom is preceded by a certain physical heat, active libido. This is why you see Tehuti pictured with horns. Wisdom is a matter of sublimation of the energies. To grow in wisdom, we must learn to control our passions. So that heat rises up through the ignoring of emotionalism, right? That heat is allowed to, and sensualism, right? That heat is allowed to rise up through the chakras, eventually nourishing the ajna, crown chakra, through which the divine speaks to us. So Tehuti is the mouthpiece of God, the faculty through which we derive intuition, which is to be tutored from within. The mental mode, just like Seker and just like Osir, is stillness. You gotta think, what would be the need for thought at the divine spheres? At this stage, there is only knowledge, direct perception, reality. No need to rework information in the form of thought and thinking. Right? And this is another one of the misconceptions of the Greeks. They chose to adopt this deity as Thoth, right? From which the English thought would later come. But in that, they missed the whole point. You are barred from intuition until you can shut down the thoughts. Think about it. You're trying to explain something to a 3-year-old. Right? What happens, in their baby sense of awareness and experience, if they start telling you what they think about it, right? They just won't get it, right? So this is a situation when man seeks wisdom from God. So it's not about thought and rethinking and reworking and the various modes of thought. It's about stilling. Just shut up. Just shut the thoughts off. Because the thoughts are the reworking of things that you learn here on earth, which is, earth is the illusion. So this is, when God has something to tell you, shh. In the story of Osir, Heru is not able to handle Set until he, seeks wisdom. So, who's the real hero? There's a pearl for all you new Herus of the day who attempt to, save the day or save the world or, save somebody, while discrediting the wisdom of elders that came before. That might be something that you might want to watch. Or those who think that, life, it all is so much about them, a subjective thing, or about what they decide, right? Or how it is affecting them, that they fail to see things from a larger perspective than themselves. We're talking about self-centric vision, right? Yet they just, move in their own thought, right? They fail to seek counsel on matters to help them see outside their own sphere. They fail to consult oracles, which is an objective source of wisdom. If you're asking the right question, a true high oracle will not spare you the rebuff of, your own inadequacies. Right? It's going to lay it all out for you. So again, Set enters the scene, creating that stalemate, that ego. People don't consult because they want to be right. They want to feel like they're right, in their own thought. Hence, they don't expose their judgment to judgment, right? So you gotta, if you're humble, which is what Set is. Remember, Set, that was the other thing in the story, right? There is no Heru without Set. And we learn this from the story once again. Right? The spirit cannot achieve the level of willed intent until there is both devotion to your cause, and whether your cause be, the reclaiming of God, the resurrecting of Osir within man, or, the winning of the championship pendant, whatever it may be, right? So there's devotion and there is sacrifice, right? You have to now sacrifice. If you're trying to become God, you have to sacrifice all that is low within you as a prerequisite or set thing. Your sins, you have to sacrifice, right? If you're trying to be, the basketball star, you have to sacrifice time on Xbox, time chilling with the boys, time smoking weed and doing things that's gonna leave your conditioning in question. You have to spend time in the gym. You have to sacrifice time that you would be just chilling. You know what I mean? So Set is that aspect, right? So who's the real hero? Right? Well, the answer is Heru, because the firmness of the will is what calls forth Tehuti, which is the resolve to fight. But I'm just giving you this so we get the value of being holistic in our considerations of the thing. So Tehuti is the mouthpiece of God, speaks Metu Neter, words divine, right? So, Metu Neter is not just the hieroglyphics, symbolisms on the walls of Kemet, which you learn from, Petrie and the rest of these dudes who, spent time in ancient Egypt trying to decipher the things that the Kemetians thought through their writings, right? Divine words is what you get when you still your thoughts, We get the greatest clue of what Tehuti is from its name. Tehu, meaning to measure. Ti, the dual. So there's no arbitrary grouping of letters, right? Everything is purposeful, right? And y'all should remember this when having babies, right? To measure the dual, what's the dual? Dual reality, right? As much as the left brain would love to think that, everything is black and white, this or that, right? The truth is that it is never just black or white, this or that, because there's many other colors that exist within the spectrum, right? And life and nature and the spirit is all about interdependence, right? So what is true about a thing in three-dimensional reality can change depending on many variables. As well, there are inner dimensions subsisting within this outer plane, which affect the evolution of things. For example, many of us in our adolescence, pride ourselves on the fact that our perspectives are constant. Many times you hear, "Oh, I don't change my mind. I don't change," or "I'm the same way as I used to be." You hear that all the time. So, all right, now if you're 50, right, and as a youth, all you was about is chasing chicks and street life, well, life is now gonna be done showed you that you need to evolve your perspective, because there'll just be certain things that you'll miss, to say the least. Another example would be making a dietary change due to now understanding different things about health that you didn't know back then, right? As in terms of what the physical body needs, what it doesn't need, as well as spiritual implications of the things that we put in our bodies, right? You'll find that the burgers and bullshit that you had at 15 just don't do you the same at 55, right? This reminds me, the best reason for veganism is that you are not of the earth. Your consciousness is from above and beyond it. How far do you think you'll get with dead flesh, earth flesh, running around inside your body, putrefying, inside your system? You come to understand that, the meaning of enlightenment, right? Enlighten or light, right? It's not only about luminance. Remember, Ma'at said to be light as a feather, right? It's about not being weighed down, right? You'll come to understand, during the meditation while fasting, right? You fast for about 4 days, right? And then meditate. Your experience in your meditation will show you the difference between being full and being empty, right? Or being weighted versus being light, right? But I digress. So, measuring the dual, right? In childhood, our view, like I said, is self-centric, right? Maturity calls for evolution in the outlook to include the various factors that surround us, the dual. We see more of the whole. There's more to consider. So wisdom is about knowing when to apply the applicable principle and in what measure. The wisdom, the general proverbial wisdom says, slow and steady is the route to completion. But what if it's a matter of competition and time is of the essence? Right? For every proverbial rule, there's a seemingly contradictory one. So to measure the dual, in addition to the systems of mathematical formulas, the quadratic equations, and things like this that Tehuti gives the world, Tehuti gives the living systems that explain the whole, right? The Agdad, right? The Pakwa of the ancient Taoists, right? Which becomes the Yi King, the Tao, the Zodiac, the Tree of Life, the pantheons of Orisha and Loas, by which to measure and weigh the concepts of living, right? Of thought, of behavior, of the various phenomena that we see, right? We spoke about the Uchal Medu, right? Go back and check that video out, right? Or get the book, because that's pertinent. Talking about a whole system of understanding how to weigh your concepts, the concepts that come before you. That's what life is about when you are seeking wisdom, right? So these have been worked out, as oracular perception to reveal and give correct guidance on the underlying factors present in the shaping of situations, thoughts, and behaviors. In the oracles, we have objective guidance as to what principle applies at what time. Most of us just don't know that there is a source of, within us that uses various devices in life as a conduit for the communication of the applicable principles of a given time and situation, where one is insightful enough to find the correct question. The answer is already there, right? So the Tehuti card is about getting counsel, advice, right? Guidance, right? And wisdom, right? As well, acknowledging your own limitations of knowledge, right? That you may go get some advice, right? This is the realm of divination, right? Astrology, cosmology, the study of the whole, right? And other such high sciences, right? That give you knowledge of, what, right? Many of the high mathematical formulas and things like this are Ma'at and Tehuti origin, right? Do you know what it is that you're thinking, right? It's about, asking you about what you know versus what you think, right? Sometimes Tehuti is saying that your intuition is correct. Other times it's saying sit down and still your thoughts that you may intuit the solution, right? And you got to be careful of the suits that you get, when you're considering certain readings. I know I haven't talked about suits in this series, and primarily that's because, well, one, I got to be respectful of the original guru behind this material, and two, I don't want you to think that you know this oracle before you get that book. That Metu Neter is classic. These videos are just an intro, maybe a touch up for some of y'all who already studied this stuff. But I say that about the suits because many times, we get a hetep, which is the highest positive. And, we think that it's saying that we are the deity now, without any, further work in the situation, whatever. And then we make the mistake of not applying the Ankh and Ma'at, which is the living of truth of the deity, and experience has shown me that it's not always that. As my, divination teacher, Owa Tehuti Kamu would say to me, don't be a hetep reader. That's what I'm going to say to you. Don't be a hetep reader. Meaning when you see hetep, there's still more work to be done, in most cases to get to the jewel in that reading. So it's about applying the shaping factors in the situation, more so than the suits. Okay, so last thing I want to say about oracles is, the correct question is the one that seeks to reveal the underlying causes and solutions, right? The spiritual principles behind these matters, right? Be warned against using the oracle for mundane pursuits. You'll get certain things, but don't press those matters because you'll become confused. The high oracles are here to give your spirit a clue to evolving, right, through the classrooms that you live in life. And they are nothing less than spiritual teachers and life coaches, right? So, Tehuti is voluminous. We can be here until tomorrow. I'm saying so. I've learned that people see 30 minutes, they get a little scared. So, I'm gonna end it right here. I'm gonna say peace. I'm gonna see y'all. And